Welcome everyone along to the Development Assessment Committee for the 17th of November. So welcome to everybody. I'll just, everyone is present, there are no apologies. Just to note that this meeting is recorded in accordance with Moorabool Shire Council's rules, and the meeting will also be live streamed, so just be aware of that. Item 4, confirmation of minutes of the Wednesday the 19th of October meeting. Somebody move that be received. Councillor Minari, Councillor Ward. I'll put that all those in favour. It's carried, thank you. Are there any matters arising from the previous minutes, councillors? No. A disclosure of conflict of interest. Are there any conflicts of interest with respect to the items on tonight's agenda, councillors? No, thank you. Moving along, excuse me, item 7.1, use and development of the land for a road freight terminal and create an access to Transport Road at Zone 2 at 355 Bungaree Wallace Road, Bungaree. We have two speakers to this particular item. The first one is Lisa Steenhouse. So Lisa, do you want to come forward to the chair there and just press the green button so we can all hear you, please?
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Lisa Steenhouse, and also in attendance this evening is my husband, Luke Steenhouse. And we reside at 338 Bungaree Wallace Road, Bungaree, opposite the proposed site. We have outlined in a written objection to council some concerns in relating to this application, including traffic management in relation to B-double and truck movement through the township zone of Bungaree. Secondly, noise pollution relating to entering and exiting at the site. Thirdly, future growth on the site relating to the transport terminal and the operating hours of this site. Pest control on site relating to the storage and movement of grain, and environmental safety concerns relating to fuel tanks. The proposed site is within a township zone, which is already impacted by heavy vehicle traffic en route from Maryborough. We have discussed this application with our residential neighbours who have all expressed similar concerns on this proposed development application. We have read the Moorabool Shire Council Community Planning Report in relation to this application and agree with the outcome arrived and the overarching sentiment that this application is contrary to the future development of the Bungaree Township and orderly planning pursuant to the Moorabool Planning Scheme. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lisa. Councillors, any question of Lisa? Okay, thank you very much, Lisa. If you just resume your seat and council will deliberate on this. Thank you. We have another speaker, Mr. James Robson, who is actually coming on online. Is Mr. Robson available, please? Mr. Robson? Oh, thank you. Mr. Robson, welcome to our meeting. You're speaking on behalf of the applicant, so I'll leave it to you to just sort of give your presentation, please.
Thanks, councillors. So the applicant proposes to use the site as a transport terminal with a warehouse store component which will largely be utilised for freight storage. The proposal involves grain storage of less than 20,000 tonnes per annum, which is to service local farm operations. Works will include the construction of 5 grain silos, a service workshop upon the existing hard stand area, and internal circulation, standing, parking and loading areas. The facility will operate with 4 to 5 office and yard staff, with standard office hours proposed between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m, Monday to Friday, providing jobs and economic benefits to the Bungaree Township. Freight operations will have been proposed to primarily occur between 3 a.m. and 10 p.m, with provision for occasional late arrivals from long-haul trips. It is proposed that the existing building on site be utilised as an office for staff with shower facilities and amenities for drivers. 9 parking spaces, including 1 accessible parking space, will be provided outside the office for staff members and visitors. The local road network is generally limited to Bungaree Wallace Road, a state-managed arterial road and gazetted under the B-double road network. It is a 2-way, 2-lane undivided road with an 80-kilometre speed limit. In terms of the suitability of Bungaree Wallace Road for accommodating heavy traffic, given the roadway is a gazetted B-double network, It is designed specifically to accommodate such vehicles. Bungaree Wallace Road runs parallel with and connects to the Western Freeway as a four-leg interchange to the east, just past Wallace, and a give-way controlled T intersection to the west, past Bungaree. The proposed tenant of the site is a family-owned transport company currently based in Creswick. The existing route network for this freight company, the company's Melbourne services, includes travelling south from Creswick, turning left onto Bungaree Wallace Road, through Bungaree past the subject site and onto the Western Highway at Wallace. The proposed transport terminal at the subject site will ultimately reduce traffic movement west of the site through the Bungaree township by reducing the business's travel distance to get through to the Western Freeway. The internal circuit of the site is designed to allow vehicles to recirculate within the site. This will prevent vehicles from needing to exit and re-enter the site in case of loading areas already being occupied. Peak hourly trips are expected to be limited to only 3 to 4 movements per hour. Operationally speaking, this volume is insignificant when looking at the hourly capacity of a rural highway, with normal expectations of between 310 vehicles to 1,510 vehicles per hour before reaching an unacceptable level of service. It would generally be anticipated that 15% of that or thereabouts would be considered heavy traffic. So the 3 to 4 trips generated by this proposal per hour is therefore not of a scale to significantly influence operational capacity of the Bungaree Wallace Road. The Department of Transport has provided conditional consent to the proposal and have required the upgrade of the roadway adjacent to the site to provide turning lanes at the site entry point. Existing businesses are in place on either side of the subject site, which also rely on heavy vehicle movements. An environmental management plan has been prepared detailing proposed mitigation measures associated with the construction phase of the project, and the proponent has committed to engaging with an appropriately experienced consultant to prepare an integrated management plan for the site should a permit issue as recommended by the Environment Protection Authority. A large landscaping buffer has been proposed around the internal perimeter of the site to assist in reducing visual and noise associated disturbances from the site. We submit that the economic benefits of this proposal outweigh the negatives, and on balance it should be considered appropriate to permit the proposal as requested.
Thank you, Mr Robson. Councillors, any questions of Mr Robson? Councillor Berry, please.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Mr Robson, could you just read out those figures on trucks per hour? Just missed.
James,
so the peak hourly trips expected from the proposal are expected to be 3 to 4 vehicle movements per hour. From our traffic engineering firm who are engaged to prepare the traffic engineers report, they've indicated the rural highway would normally expect to see between 310 vehicles to 1,510 vehicle movements per hour, and they've indicated that roughly 15% of those would be heavy vehicle movements.
Thank you, Mr Robson. Councillor Manari, question, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My question's either for Mr Robson or the officers. Mr Robson, you noted that there's other businesses in the vicinity of the destination. Do you know what businesses they are?
You able to respond to that, Mr Robson?
So there's a business to the east. I couldn't tell you exactly what it is at the moment, but there is vehicle movements in and out, and there's a wood storage and sales yard directly to the west.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Manari?
Thank you. Yep.
Do you have a question to the officers? Okay. Any other questions of Mr Robson, councillors? Okay. Thank you, Mr Robson. Thank you very much for your presentation and the information you provided to council. Thank you very much. Councillors, I'm in your hands. Councillor Tatchell.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. We had an alternate prepared for this.
Yes, it has been circulated.
Yeah, so did you want a sort of an overview of why? Or?
Well, do you want to sort of just give a bit of a précis and then perhaps if you want to move it, then have to get someone to second to go further?
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. Well, obviously the site's been sitting there empty for quite some time, and it was originally for treated pine posts, and there is some issues, I'd imagine, from treated pine posts, that land would be contaminated in some point over for the arsenic that's used to work that land. So it's obviously been sitting there for a long time gathering weeds. There's a lot of pluses and minuses with this, and it was discussed at our economic development meeting, and in terms of what it would provide the Shire in terms of where it is. There's been a long-standing issue with the fact that Ballarat have used their container terminals, especially for agri-products, on the western side of Ballarat, and there's been certainly a push to get them on the east, and I also understand that it's been in Council's plan for some time to develop the western end of our Shire, which needs a balance and parallels of both housing and indeed industry and indeed jobs. So I've asked for an alternate recommendation for this proposal, which is fairly comprehensive in terms of the conditions. So I'd put it to Council as is, and let's just see where it runs.
Councils have received a copy of that proposed alternate motion, has been circulated to Council. So you wish now to move that?
If I may, Mr Mayor.
Okay. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Ward, you seconding it? Yeah. Okay. Councillor Tatchell, do you wish to now speak to your motion, please, as the mover?
Yeah, is there an objector?
There's any objection? Oh, sorry. Okay,
No worries.
thank you.
I'm not going to go too deep into this, Mr Mayor. We've obviously had this property sitting up there for quite some time now, since the last owners sort of evacuated it. It will remain there unless there is some sort of commercial use put to this. The fact that it's an agri-product in a farm zone, to my way of thinking, would make it would resolve the problem in the middle of Bungaree. I also believe that it's in our interest to, because we have a shortage of this type of land throughout the Moorabool Shire, because we don't have the infrastructure underneath, that we take advantage of these opportunities when they arise. It also brings industry into our Shire from what was in Creswick at some point. And it also, I think, puts us back in the game in terms of the Ballarat West situation, where largely the Moorabool end has been ignored, and yet there's been many studies on the cost of transportation from the west side of Ballarat as opposed to the eastern side of Ballarat, that would make it more viable for our farming community to transport goods into the wharf. Most of these, because it's containerised, goes into the wharf. 80% of the productivity out of Melbourne in terms of Victorian agriculture is coming from our region on the west. So, and I think it's a very similar operation to the Agri-Pack operation that exists in Balan, and so I'd encourage councillors to continue to develop our economic development strategy in terms of agribusiness in our region.
Thank you, Councillor Tatchell. Councillor Ward, as second, you wish to speak?
No, nothing to add, Mr Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Dudzik, do you wish to speak again?
I support economic development in the right place, and the issue with this application is that 5 objectors live close to this site, so 5 people's homes will be impacted by this development. It's very close to schools. It's a township zone, and it's where we projected there would be future growth, and in my view it would have been residential growth. And we've made big investments to get sewerage in this area. But honestly, who would want to live in this area if this is what is in the centre of the town?
Councillor Dudzik, are there any councillors speak for or against this, the alternate recommendation?
Excuse me, Mr.
Yes, Councillor Berry.
Am I able to ask a question?
Certainly.
Does anybody know how long that treated pine industry hasn't been running there?
Perhaps our officer might be able to. I could offer some idea, but I don't know exactly. Probably closed 10 or 15 years ago, at least.
Mr Mayor, we can't give you a precise answer, but it's a number of years.
Yes, quite clearly. Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Tatchell, do you wish to close the debate, please?
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, I understand where Councillor Dudley's coming from, but it is farm zone. It is contaminated land. I could go back at least 50 years that I know it was there. I wish I couldn't go back that far, but anyhow, that there was the treated pine place was there. The fact is that you wouldn't be able to build residential on it anyway. I wouldn't have thought at any point in time without decontaminating the area, and they were in business there for a very long time, and the processes for treated pine would come under the Prescribed Waste Act and would be incredibly difficult to remove, especially with leaching through arsenic. I think it solves a problem there. Otherwise, we're going to have a very large allotment of land that's always going to be just a weed-infested sort of mess. So I think as I've said, I think there's more positives to this than there are negatives, and it was there a very long time, and I understand that we have a residential responsibility as well, but I think under the existing use, I think that the property should move forward.
Thank you, Councillor Tatchell. Councillors, you've got the copies of the... Oh, Councillor Dudzik, sorry, your question?
I'd like to flag, if this doesn't get up, there's an alternative in the council papers.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, because otherwise it would be a vacuum. Councillors, we have the alternate recommendation that's been put forward by Councillor Tatchell. I'll put all those in favour. All those against? You for or against? Okay. It is lost. So, Councillor...
I'd like to move the recommendation in the council papers to refuse the application.
That's the recommendation in the business paper. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Minari. Any opposition? Councillor Tatchell? You're opposing it? Yeah, okay. Councillor Dudzik, you wish to speak?
This application was assessed by council officers who did say that this proposal doesn't comply with the farming zone. It's not an appropriate use. It's going to have a negative impact on the amenity and the surrounding area. If this matter was taken to VCAT, I believe that VCAT would uphold a refusal.
Thank you. Is the seconder wish to speak? Councillor Minari.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've travelled this road many times for the last 20 years. I do find it interesting that although I'm going to mention another shire here, but only 5 minutes up the road we do have an industrial area in Warrenheip. So that makes me feel like I don't believe that this town should go in this direction, especially when we've been looking at a township strategy for this town. It just does not seem right. 7 objections stands out in my eyes, and of course my first thought in this whole process was the primary school opposite. I feel that this primary school needs to be given every thought possible in this application. I just don't feel that this is the right decision. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Tatchell, do you wish to speak?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'm not going to debate it. I think it would only be repetitive of my reasons to put it forward. So,
thank you. Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Dudzik, you wish to close the debate, please?
I would ask that councillors support this recommendation of refusal because it's the right thing to do. We've got people living nearby that have objected, a school nearby, and they don't need 3 to 4 BW trucks travelling past a school so close.
Thank you, Councillor Dudzik. Councillors, the debate is now closed. I'll put all those in favour. It is carried. Thank you. Moving along to the people in the gallery, what has occurred is the recommendation on the business paper of Council's business paper is the recommendation that has been passed by Council, so for your information, so thank you. Moving along, Councils, to item 7.2, which relates to a property in Dixon Street, back at 79 Dixon Street. Bacchus Marsh. Is there any, have a recommendation there, councillor? Somebody wish to move that? Somebody wish to move that? Move councillor Ward. A seconder? Is there a seconder for that, please? Councillor Berry. Any opposition? I'll put that. All those in favour? It's carried. Thank you. Next item of business relates to, relates to the update on VCAT decisions. Mr. Bazootan, are there any to update council up at the moment?
No updates, Mr Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any other business, councillors? Thank you. The date of our next meeting, that will be in December, at a date to be advised, I take it. And at this point in time, council, I'll close the meeting. Thank you very much for your involvement. Thank you, council, the officers, for your reports, and thank you for the gallery for attending here tonight. And wish everyone a very good evening. We'll close the meeting. So thank you very much.